Welcome back to the Money Wisdom Podcast, powered by Johnson Vernetti. As always, my name is Jake Dozer, certified financial planner and an advisor here on the team in Connecticut, joined, of course, by my colleague and partner in crime, Nick Colantuno. He's an advisor, a certified financial planner, and up in our Boston area. We have an interesting question in front of us today as we continue addressing some of the questions that folks mail into us. By the way, if you have questions, hop on our website, johnsonvernetti.com, shoot us a message, give us a call. Perhaps leave a comment below, reach out in any way. And if we can help, either personalized or through a medium like this, we will. The question we have is interesting. It's something we hear more often than you realize. I just recently got engaged. Number one, congratulations. It will be my second marriage for both of us. And my fiance is probably less than 10 years out from retiring, while I'm in my early 50s. So not uncommon where there's an age difference. Here's the question. How do you advise new couples to approach their finances and financial plans later in life? That's a great question. I think it's a question that is on everyone's mind, whether you're in this sort of second marriage relationship, a blended family, or more specifically, whether you're just 10 years or so out from retirement or closer, where you're recognizing that pretty soon your relationship with money is going to change. You're going to go from grow to now I need to live off of this nest egg that I built. How do I make sure I don't blow this up? Nick, what are the things we need to be thinking about as we are in that transitory phase from growth only to growth and income? And how does that impact everything? Where do we start?
It's a great question, Jake, and I love the way you phrased it, right? When you're entering this phase of life where you know your relationship with money is going to be changing, well, then you need to change the way you're approaching your money. And yeah, we see it all the time. You know, people are working and earning and saving and doing what they're told to do. And they're just putting money in, getting tax deductions, and it's all good and well. And then all of a sudden it comes to the point where the working and the earning and kind of the paycheck and the contributions stop. And now you've got to turn that money or a lifetime of savings, as we say, into now a lifetime of income. And how do you strike that balance? You know, the world we live in, as you're aware, is just getting more and more expensive every day. You know, if our clients are coming in and they're in their 60s, you know, late 50s, early to mid 60s, we still need to plan for 30 plus years of retirement. So we certainly can't take our eye off the ball when it comes to growth. But gone are the days where now our clients can afford to really have all their money in a place where it's going up and down every day. I mean, you think about how I guess, for lack of a better word, a little crazy the market's gotten over these last, 6 weeks, 5-6 weeks. You know, if our clients were in a position where they weren't retiring for 10 or 15 years, they probably wouldn't even be thinking twice about their investment philosophy. But all of a sudden, if you're approaching retirement, maybe next year or within the next, 6 months, obviously this is making a lot of people just realize, oh, okay, the market is pretty high. Oh, there is a lot further that this thing can go down. And, if I know I have enough and I know I'm going to be okay, well, then why keep playing this game that I've potentially already won? So I kind of said a lot there, but what it all comes down to is whenever you know that a change is coming, not a change in the market or the political environment, but a change as far as your day-to-day and your relationship with money, the plan you have in place and the way you're approaching your money also needs to change as well. And I think that's probably the most important part of the planning we do, is just initially helping our clients reassess, okay, is the way you're doing things the way to continue to get you through this next phase of life?
Retirement isn't just about stopping work. It's about starting the life you want. Make sure you're ready with your free Are You Ready to Retire starter kit. Text the word KIT, K-I-T, to 800-757-0436. Text KIT to 800-757-0436 and take the first step toward a future you're excited about.
Yeah, what gets you to is not necessarily the thing that gets you through. And I know that that's a kitschy type of statement, but there's such a truth. A lot of times folks think in dichotomies or extremes, where the idea is I either need to grow for the future, or now that I'm in retirement mode, I need to be super safe. And normally that's not true in either extreme. There's a combination thereof. Again, it is the way I'm using my money should inform how it's invested. If I need this money to be creating me a paycheck every month through withdrawals or systematic somethings, well, that certainly means that it should take as much risk as the money I need in the back half of retirement, which I don't need right now, and maybe not for the next 10 to 20 years. And therefore, I should take a lot more comparative risk because I'm growing it for down the road. Or the money I want to use when I'm 30, maybe to supplement my savings, and one day I'm going to use it for a down payment, isn't the same way I'm going to treat the money in my 401k, which I'm not going to touch until I'm 60 or 70, right? So that principle is true. And so effectively, what you need to do is assign purpose to the dollars that you have. You should have multiple buckets effectively of money, if you want to say that, where you're thinking about how do each of these buckets complement the big picture. Generally you should have some money that's safe, not exposed to the stock market if you're about to retire or are in retirement. But you shouldn't have all your money there because that money might not fight inflation as well as your money in the market, which is supposed to grow well for the long term. You should also have some money in the bank for an emergency, but you shouldn't have so much cash sitting in the bank, so to speak, under the mattress that it's not earning any interest and it's safely losing to inflation. So where is that right balance for you? Well, we start by evaluating how do you feel about risk, but let's not stay there. Let's also understand how much risk you need, right? Think of it this way: is if you're going on, a road trip, you're going to kind of do the math of how many times you think you might need to stop and fill up. And if you're filling up every 10 minutes, it's going to take you a long time to get there. That would be overkill. Similarly, sometimes we take a ton of risk to get us to a place that we've already exceeded. We've already achieved what we needed to achieve. As Nick mentioned, don't continue to play a game that you've already won. If you've won the game, if you have enough money to retire and live the lifestyle you want, well, then maybe you don't need pedal to the metal anymore, right? And so, again, it's not an extreme. It's not high risk or no risk. A lot of times it's staggered amount of risk based on the way we're using our money in retirement. And that talks about the risk level. But Nick, maybe just as some concluding thoughts, how do we go from, in our investment philosophy, how do we go from like, I want to grow, but I also don't want to be too risky. I want to be safe, but I don't want to give up return. And now I know I need to generate income. Like now
Sure.
that relationship is different, where we're withdrawing every month versus like taking a 401k statement and throwing it in the drawer, pretending it like it doesn't exist. What's that look like? And is that something people need to do right at retirement? Do they do it before? What's that look like?
It's never too early to plan, because what you're describing, Jake, is going from a world, and we see this all the time with the people we're working with or with our clients. They go from a world where they just have investments to all of a sudden they're clients of ours, and now they've got a really good plan in place as far as how to turn those investments into the dream retirement. So, as you mentioned, it comes down to these buckets, right? You want different buckets doing different things. And as a result, we're always going to have different markets. Market's going to be up, market's going to be down, market's going to be flat. But that doesn't really matter. What matters is you still have bills to pay. You still need income. So, if the market's up, we'll always say, okay, we'll take the money out of the market. Let's look at that growth bucket. Maybe it was up in a year like last year where the market was up 22, 24%. When that happens, you don't want to feel like you're missing out on it. But all of a sudden the market falls, you also don't want to be overexposed to it. So it's all good, when the market's going up. You want to know that wherever you're getting money from is coming out of those growth-oriented assets. You're capturing the gains. You're taking that risk off the table. And also you have to have a certain portion, as you mentioned, a certain portion of your investments need to be income generating investments, replacing at least a part of that paycheck that you lost now that you're no longer working. And so, okay, if you've got that sort of base income coming in, you need money in a good year, you take it out of the market. But if the market's going the other way, that's where having the safety and security of those safe vehicles that we put in place for our clients just gives them the peace of mind that they never have to be taking money out of accounts that are falling in value at the same time, right? So if a certain portion of the portfolio is always generating income, then we look at those other two buckets, the growth buckets and the safe bucket, and we say, well, what is the market doing? What the market is doing will ultimately dictate which of those buckets we tap into to make up the difference between what's coming in and what's going out for our clients. So again, it's really a process. We go as deep as we need to go. And you said it's not just the comfort level with risk. It's also the deeper emotional things that you have to be worried about. What is your just relationship with money? And it's a beautiful thing to see, right? People go from a world where they just have investments to a world where they now have a plan. Now they can sleep well at night.
I can't say it better than that, folks. Have a plan. It's never too early, as Nick said, and don't continue to play a game that you've already won. We need to start a segment about Nick's Corner, the quotes that come from Mr. Colantuno. At any rate, folks, we'll see you next time on Money Wisdom Podcast, powered by Johnson Brunetti. Take care.
Investment advisory services offered through JB Capital LLC. Insurance products offered through JN Financial LLC.